Hello, dear sleepy listener. Tonight, you're not just lying in your bed. You're drifting within a thought older than time. The pillows beneath your head cradle not just your body, but billions of years of motion, unfolding beneath and around you like the soft breath of the universe itself. Somewhere, out past the walls of your room, beyond the windows and the trees and the stars above those trees, something is still happening. Something old, something vast. The Big Bang perhaps not a single event in the past, but a quiet continuation, not an explosion, but an eternal sigh, a gentle stretching of space that still goes on. Before you drift off to sleep, take a moment to like this video, leave a gentle comment about your favourite science moment, and subscribe to continue reading these bedtime stories. Let us know where you're listening from and what time zone the stars are watching you in. Now, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let your curiosity drift among the stars. You're floating in silence, not like floating in water, but in a place where the idea of place itself is only just being born. There is no up, no down, no edge to hold on to, no centre to cling to, but you don't feel lost. You feel held by warmth, by motion, by something too big and too kind to name. You awaken inside a sunbeam that left its star long before you were born, and yet somehow it arrives now, just now, as if it had always meant to reach you. But this sunbeam isn't from your sun. It's older. It comes from a time before stars had names, before atoms knew how to hold each other. You reach out not with hands, but with thought, and touch the beginning. Or rather, you touch something that still pulses with it. You've heard the phrase Big Bang before. It sounds so abrupt, doesn't it? So violent. But here, as you drift through the fabric of space itself, it feels less like a bang and more like a bloom, not a gunshot, a breath, a quiet becoming. And the strangest thing of all, it hasn't stopped. Everything around you is still stretching, expanding. Not as if pieces of a puzzle are flying apart through space, but as if space itself is growing between them. The distance between galaxies grows not because they're moving through something, but because the something between them is expanding gently, endlessly. You drift with it, in every direction. You feel the rhythm of receding galaxies, like a tide that never reverses, a hush of motion, everywhere at once. There is no centre, there is no edge. Wherever you are is the middle, because everything is moving away from everything else. The illusion of being still is a comfort we keep here on Earth, but out here, stillness is nowhere to be found. The night sky you've known, dotted with stars, is but a skin. Beneath it, the bones of the cosmos stretch in every direction, and the marrow is time itself. And yet, in this expansion, there is peace, a kind of cosmic exhale. The spaces between the galaxies are not empty, they are pregnant with quiet, with possibilities, with light that has not yet reached your eyes. The light you see now as you drift is old. Some of it was born when Earth was molten, some when dinosaurs wandered, some when there was no Earth at all. And yet here it is, catching you gently, like a whisper from an ancestor you never knew you had. You move deeper into the memory of everything, and you ask, what is it that's really expanding galaxies? Yes, light, yes. But time, too, time itself is stretching, not like a thread pulled tight, but like soft dough rising, giving shape to possibility. Every moment that passes is not a ticking clock, it is a widening field, and you in this moment, are a part of that unfolding. Your body, back on Earth, is resting. But your mind is drifting between galaxies, and every atom of you was born from this same breath. Hydrogen, helium, elements forged in the very earliest seconds after that first spark. You are not merely born in the universe, you were born of it. The Big Bang is not behind you, it is beneath you, within you, around you. Scientists used to picture it like an explosion from a single point, flinging matter outward, but you now know better. There is no point in space where it happened. There was no centre to that moment. Space itself was in that moment, and every bit of it was expanding together. A balloon inflating not into something else, but making room inside itself. And the balloon is still inflating, even now. The galaxies race apart, not because they are in a hurry, but because the universe is still stretching its arms. The Big Bang was not a clap of thunder, but a long, quiet yawn. And that yawn has never quite ended, so here you are, floating in that same breath. A tiny creature from a blue dot in the corner of a spiral galaxy, born billions of years after the beginning, and yet still inside it. You may feel small, but you are not an outsider. You're a note in the song. The Big Bang is not over. It is the process of becoming, and you, in your quiet room, with your eyes closed and your breath softening, are still part of its story. The expansion continues, not just in the sky above you, but in the spaces between thoughts, in the places between heartbeats. You drift now, past ancient stars whose light has never been seen. Some of them burned and died before Earth had formed, and yet their light still travels, still arrives. The light does not know you are waiting, and yet it finds you anyway. You wonder, will it ever stop? Will this expansion slow, or will it continue forever, stretching galaxies so far apart that the stars vanish from each other's view? No one is sure. That, too, is part of the dream. There are whispers of dark energy, a name we give to what we do not yet understand. A force that seems to push the cosmos outward, faster and faster. An invisible tide that no one can see and no one can touch. And yet, it is everywhere, like a lullaby hummed by the universe to itself. Somewhere in that humming, you float, you listen. You do not need to understand it fully to be moved by it. You're still expanding too, not in size, but in wonder. And as your breath slows and your thoughts quiet, the Big Bang continues softly, gently, without rush, without end. You're not late to the story. You're still in its first act. You move without walking. You travel without leaving. There are no footfalls, no roads beneath you, only the soft unfolding of distance. You're carried, not by force, but by space itself, like a tiny leaf drifting along the current of a river whose banks are made of time. In this strange stillness, you begin to notice something gentle. Everything is slipping away, not urgently, not violently, but inevitably. Galaxies retreat from one another, not as enemies or exiles, but as dancers whose choreography was written at the very beginning. They move with grace, with silence, with purpose. You too move with them. The night sky you've always known, the constellations you memorized, the Milky Way stretching like spilled sugar across the black was never frozen. It was only a slow moment in a fast world, Over vast spans of time, those familiar lights rearrange themselves, like candles on a drifting sea. It is as if space itself is drawing a long breath. Every step is outward, every pulse, every tick of invisible clocks carries the galaxies farther apart. You drift beside them, watching as the distances swell, not between atoms in your body, not between stars in a galaxy, but between the galaxies themselves. You pass the Andromeda Galaxy, still close for now, though destined to dance with our Milky Way one day in a slow embrace that will take billions of years. Around you, other galaxies scatter in all directions. Each one glows faintly, a lantern on the horizon of deep time, and each one is moving away. You wonder if this means the universe has a destination, but it doesn't, not in the way you expect. It isn't travelling to anywhere. It is simply unfolding, like a story with no final page. Imagine baking a raisin cake. As the dough rises in the oven, the raisins inside spread apart not because they are moving through the dough, but because the dough itself is swelling. Now picture that dough as the universe, and each raisin a galaxy. You're inside that batter, warm and sweet, still rising. In this metaphor, you're both the cake and the raisin, both the structure and the story. You drift farther into the dark, but the dark is not empty. There is light on all sides, even if your eyes cannot catch it. Photons stretch with space. The farther they travel, the longer their waves become. What was once a sharp, blue spark of high energy becomes a low, red whisper. This is Redshift. The cosmos is painting its past with longer, softer strokes. You don't hear this expansion, but you feel it, in the slow unwinding of ancient starlight, in the tired song of distant quasars, in the cold hush between clusters of galaxies where the universe holds its breath. You notice that the further a galaxy is from you, the faster it seems to flee. This isn't an illusion. It is the fabric of space-time itself stretching between you and them. And it means something strange from your point of view. Everything is running away. And if you were in another galaxy, in a far corner of the universe, you'd see the same thing. Everything still fleeing, every step outward, every star receding. It isn't loneliness, it's rhythm. This is not an accident. This is the signature of an expanding universe, one that began with the Big Bang, but never truly stopped, a wave that never crashed, a ripple that became an ocean. You rest your thoughts against this idea. Expansion is not destruction. It is not loss. It is the soft bloom of potential. If space grows, so too does mystery. The galaxies are not racing away from something, they are not escaping a point in the past. Instead, they are riding the crest of creation itself, carried ever onward by a sea that is still growing beneath them. And you, little voyager, are part of that tide. You drift deeper, and as you do, you realize you have never truly been still. Even in your deepest sleep, your atoms stretch. The spaces between particles are not fixed. They respond to the same laws that move the galaxies. It humbles you, doesn't it? To know you're caught up in something so much vaster than your own life. And yet it doesn't frighten you. It calms you. You're meant to drift. You're meant to move. Everything that exists, every star, every world, every soft thought in your mind rides on the back of this ancient rhythm. Scientists have names for this: Hubble's law, cosmic inflation, metrics and constants. But in this quiet place between names, it simply feels like breath. You can almost imagine the universe breathing, slowly. Inhale, galaxies gather. Exhale, they drift apart, and so far, we are still in the exhale. You begin to wonder if it will always be this way. Will the universe keep stretching forever? Will the galaxies slip beyond each other's view, like friends waving goodbye across a widening river? Some believe yes, that the expansion will continue until the stars are so far apart that even light can't bridge the gaps. A time when the night sky will go dark not from violence, but from absence. Others wonder if it might slow, gently, and then reverse, a great contraction, a pulling back, a return. But the more we watch the stars, the more we suspect otherwise, because the expansion is accelerating, and something unseen, some energy that resists gravity, is pushing everything apart with growing determination. It is called dark energy, but that is just our name for a mystery. No one knows what it is, only that it is there, always there, like a whisper in the folds of the universe. You turn your ear toward it, but it makes no sound. You feel its presence not in pressure or weight, but in momentum. It guides the galaxies gently, like a hand you cannot see. A reminder that not everything in the cosmos has been named. You keep drifting. You keep expanding. The journey is not toward an edge or a wall. There are no walls, only more. Every step you take is outward, every moment a bloom. And even now, while you lie in bed and your breath softens, the stars continue their long separation. The Big Bang never stopped. It became everything, and everything is still happening. You pass beyond familiar shapes, now past the spirals and the glows, into a realm where structure itself becomes soft, the stars thin. The clusters drift farther apart, and in their absence you begin to feel something else. Not emptiness, not silence, but stretch. You're no longer watching things move through space. You're feeling space itself move. It is not motion like a train along a track, nor like a bird in the sky. It is the movement of the track itself, the widening of the sky, a slow, omnipresent swell, gentle and patient. You are not being pulled. You are not being pushed. You are being carried on the back of something too vast to fully see. You rest inside that stretch. What you feel is not the rushing of wind or the spinning of planets, but the quiet growth of the in-between. Space-time is not a fixed backdrop. It is a living thing, a loom on which the threads of everything are woven. And that loom is stretching. It does not stretch into something. There is no container outside the cosmos. The universe does not expand into a larger room. It is the room, the stage, the script, and the actors all at once. And that stage is still unfolding its floorboards. You move through a region where gravity lets go. Out here, the clusters have long since pulled away from one another. The stars are barely visible. The temperature is nearly absolute zero. But even here, in this quiet cold, something continues to grow. You drift through voids, vast regions between galaxy clusters, where there seems to be nothing at all. But nothing is not what it seems. These are not gaps in the universe. They are part of its structure, like the space between branches, like the breath between words. Without the voids, the stars would not shine so clearly. And even these voids stretch. The cosmic web, that vast foamy network of galaxies and dark matter, rests gently over these stretches. It is not tearing. It is not breaking. It is breathing. And you are breathing with it. It's easy, in your waking life, to imagine the universe as fixed, a theatre, a static canvas. But here, between the stars, you feel the truth. The canvas is elastic. The theatre is still being built even as the actors perform. You close your eyes and still the stretch continues. Even the light behaves differently out here. The photons that travel through this growing space lose energy not because they are absorbed, not because they are dimmed, but because they are pulled. Pulled long, pulled slow, redshifted by the growth of space-time itself. Each photon becomes a sigh. This is not a loss. This is transformation, a journey made visible. You begin to think of space-time not as a thing, but as a feeling, a soft, invisible tide that holds all of us. The kind of tide you don't notice until you've already been carried far from shore. Somewhere, billions of light years away, a supernova may have exploded long before Earth had oceans. Its light began to travel then, bold and blue. But as it crossed the stretching universe, its blue light softened, lengthened, a deep red memory now, arriving here at last. And you are here to catch it, not with your eyes, perhaps, but with your awareness. And in doing so, you're part of the stretch. Scientists often describe this with math, with equations and models, the metric expansion of space, lambda CDM, the Friedman equations, Hubble constants, elegant tools, necessary ones. But in the hush of bedtime, you do not need the numbers, you only need the feel. The quiet stretch of space-time is not abstract out here. It is everywhere. It is gentle. It is intimate. You feel it in your chest, like a slowing breath, in your spine, like a long yawn after a long day, in your dreams, where memories unfurl and stretch into story. Here, there is no edge to fall off of. There is no wall to hit. There is only more distance, more quiet, more becoming. You pause, you listen. In this stillness, you ask yourself a question. If the universe keeps expanding, is there a limit to how far something can go? The answer, oddly enough, may be yes. But not in the way you expect. Some galaxies are so far, and the space between you and them is growing so fast, that their light will never reach us. Not now, not ever. They are not receding because they are moving quickly. They are receding because space itself is growing faster than light can cross it. It means that every moment that passes, more of the universe slips beyond our reach, not lost, not destroyed, just forever out of sight, like dreams you forget upon waking. But this is not something to mourn. It is something to marvel at, because even as parts of the cosmos stretch beyond view, others come into focus, and the quiet stretch continues. There is poetry in that, isn't there? That something can grow too fast for even light to catch up. That space can grow between two things, and in doing so, define them. In the life you know, closeness often means familiarity, but in the universe, distance does not mean disconnection. It means growth. You continue to drift. You let go of the need to arrive anywhere. There is nowhere to arrive. There is only more unfolding. The Big Bang is still happening, not as a bang, but as a breath. And breath is expansion. You inhale. The universe inhales. You exhale. The stars drift farther. You let go of time now, too. You realize that time, like space, is stretching, not ticking forward, but flowing outward, like ripples, like sleep. And in this outward drift, You find yourself once again in the center, because in an expanding universe, every point is the center. It's not that you are special, it's that everything is special. Every grain of dust, every atom of your skin, every corner of every galaxy, all equally in the middle of the unfolding, all equally loved by the stretch. You smile, or perhaps you dream a smile, and the stretch continues, quietly, beautifully, as soft as your breath, as slow as the stars. You drift quietly now, as the night deepens and the stars begin to hum in colours too slow for the eye to catch. The silence here is not empty. It is filled with the long whispers of light that has travelled for billions of years, stretching all the while like a ribbon pulled through gentle hands. You're floating in a current of photons, tiny messengers born in the hearts of ancient stars. Each one began its journey with a colour, a frequency, a purpose. But something happened as they moved, something delicate and unforced. Their energy softened, their waves lengthened, their voices deepened. These messengers have been redshifted. You let them pass through you, these slow waves of light. And in their fading hues, they tell you stories of motion, of space growing beneath them, of galaxies parting like old friends walking away across a boundless field. Redshift is a word scientists use to describe what happens when light stretches. It's how we know the universe is expanding. But out here, it feels like something more poetic than proof. It feels like a memory being told slowly, like a lullaby that loses none of its sweetness as it drops into lower and lower notes. You let your thoughts stretch with the waves, the galaxies you see farthest from you. Those faint glimmers at the edge of the visible universe, they are running away faster than the closer ones. Not because they're in a hurry, but because they're farther out on the ever-expanding fabric. It's like standing in a rising mist. The ones nearest you fade last, while the distant ones vanish first. The redshift reveals a pattern, a whisper of expansion woven directly into the light. You pass through the whispering photons like leaves floating through a river of time. Each red wave is longer than it was at birth. Each carries the echo of its journey. You imagine their wavelengths, first ultraviolet, then visible blue, then orange, then infrared, then microwave. The farther they travel, the deeper their tone. Some are so redshifted now that they no longer shine in any colour your eyes could ever see. They've become radio waves, microwave pulses, a symphony of low, ancient voices. And they still tell the story of the Big Bang still happening, still unfolding, still stretching each wave just a little longer. You listen to that cosmic language, not with your ears, but with your awareness. You're listening with the space inside your sleepiness, the space where understanding is less important than feeling. The universe is not shouting its truth, it is whispering it. One photon at a time, and you, dear traveller, are part of that whisper. Imagine holding a violin string and slowly pulling it longer and longer. The note it makes becomes deeper, slower, rounder. Now imagine that the entire universe is doing this to every ray of light that moves through it. That is redshift, and it means something gentle but extraordinary. The light we see is not the light that was. It has changed, transformed. The universe has left its signature upon it. A stretch, a sigh, a mark of age, like the fading ink of a letter from long ago. You pass a galaxy cluster now distant, ghostly, ancient. The light from those stars left them when Earth was still a newborn. But as it crossed the universe, the space it travelled through expanded. The light had no choice but to expand with it, and so it arrives here, tired and soft, shifted toward red, and the farther out you look, the more extreme the redshift becomes. There is a place beyond which we cannot see, because the galaxies there are receding faster than their light can reach us. Not because they're breaking a speed limit, but because the fabric of space itself is growing beneath them, like a magic carpet accelerating into the dark. This cosmic redshift is not just a clue, it's a love letter from the universe, quietly confessing I am still unfolding. You drift deeper into that letter. You begin to understand light is not just illumination, it is time made visible. Every photon is a thread through history. Every ray is an event still travelling. When you see a galaxy, you do not see it as it is. You see it as it was. A snapshot sent across the widening sea of space. The further back you look, the more stretched that snapshot becomes, until even the image of the Big Bang itself is visible not as a fireball, but as a soft, cold fog. A fog called the cosmic microwave background. You're approaching it now. The most ancient light there is. The afterglow of the Big Bang. Redshifted so deeply it no longer shines, but hums a quiet warmth filling the entire sky, like the ghost of a flame. And this, too, is redshift. The final whisper of the first light. You feel it wrap around you, not hot, not bright, just gentle, present. A warmth without fire, a light without colour. It is not the universe screaming into existence. It is the universe remembering it. And still, it continues. Even now, the light that leaves the stars is beginning its red-shifted journey. Photons leaving your sun will travel farther than Earth itself may survive, and they, too, will stretch. They, too, will whisper. You are part of that whisper. Your body, your cells, your breath, they are made of atoms forged in stars that once shouted their light across the universe. That light passed through space that was already stretching. The atoms in you were formed from elements born in explosions and cooled in the gentle tug of redshifted time. You are redshifted starlight, slowed into thought, quieted into dreams. You let that realization melt into you like honey. Sweet, slow, unhurried. There is no rush here, no deadline. Light moves at light's pace, and space stretches at its own tempo. Together, they write the long lullaby of the cosmos, and you are listening, softly, patiently. The Big Bang didn't explode like a firework. It bloomed like music, and redshift is how you hear the echo of its song. Even now, as you rest in the deep of night, the light from stars unseen moves toward you, redder than red, slower than sound, older than time, and you, dear dreamer, are the one receiving it, quietly, gently. You need not do anything but be. The whispers will find you. You drift farther now, into a realm where light has cooled into memory. Around you, space hums not with sound, for sound needs air to carry it, but with something deeper, something woven into the very fabric of existence. A quiet echo, stretched thin and cold, yet still present in all directions. You have arrived at the cosmic microwave background, not a place, exactly, not a boundary, but a whisper, the faintest residue of the universe's beginning. It wraps around you like an invisible shawl, present no matter which direction you float. It is the glow of the Big Bang, stretched by billions of years of expansion, until it is barely light at all. And yet, it is everything. It is the earliest light that could ever travel, the moment the universe became transparent. Before this, the cosmos was too hot, too dense. Light couldn't move freely. Photons bounced and scattered like fireflies in a storm. But then, after 308,000 years of becoming, something changed. The universe cooled, atoms formed, and suddenly the fog lifted. For the first time, light was free to travel, and it has never stopped. That light surrounds you now everywhere, always. The first visible memory. The afterglow of when the universe first opened its eyes. It does not shine in blues or golds. It is soft, a whispering warmth just above absolute zero, invisible to human sight. And yet, all of modern cosmology was born from its study. You float gently through this field of ancient photons. They pass through you like quiet sighs. Some came from a direction billions of light years behind you, others from the other side of everything. Yet all of them, every single one, began their journey at the same time when the universe let go of its own brightness, and light began to wander. Some call this the baby picture of the cosmos, but baby pictures are still. This light is not still. It moves, it changes, it tells stories. You listen closely. These photons are not uniform. They have tiny temperature differences, mere millionths of a degree, but in those slight irregularities lies the key to everything. Tiny ripples in density, slight clumps and dips. Like the first scribbles on a blank page, those scribbles became galaxies, clusters, voids, us. You're floating inside a song that has never stopped playing. The music is low now, stretched by time, but it is still humming, still resonating. When scientists first detected this cosmic microwave background in 1965, they weren't even looking for it. It showed up as noise, a persistent hiss in their radio antenna. They thought it was a mistake, a flaw. They cleaned the wires, checked the pigeons nesting inside the dish, but the noise remained, and eventually they realized it wasn't noise at all. It was the universe itself, whispering across time. You feel that whisper now, not with your ears, but with your stillness, with your willingness to drift and feel. It tells you I have always been here. You begin to understand that even silence can have texture. This ancient background isn't just light, it's a fingerprint, a frozen imprint of the moment light and matter parted ways. It shows you the infant wrinkles of the universe, and through those wrinkles, it shows you yourself. The cosmic microwave background is not just a backdrop, it's the beginning of visibility, the earliest light that wasn't instantly scattered. It is the first hello of the universe, and still it expands. Those photons continue to stretch, from visible light to infrared to microwave. Someday, they'll stretch even further into wavelengths we can no longer detect, into the quiet beyond perception. But even then, they'll still be moving, still echoing, still unfolding. You turn slowly and feel it surround you equally in every direction. It doesn't point to a source, because every direction is the source. This is how you know the expansion has no center. The Big Bang happened everywhere at once, and this light comes from all of it. There is no out there is only through. You drift through the beginning, not toward it. And in that realization, you feel your own place in it not as a separate observer, but as a continuation, Used to are one of its echoes. Your atoms once floated in the same plasma. Your breath is part of its story. The hydrogen in your body remembers this light. The calcium in your bones remembers the stars that followed. The electricity in your brain rides on the same rules that shape these earliest ripples. You are made of echoes, and now you're floating within the purest one of all. You drift deeper, past the moment of last scattering, into the fog before sight, into the time before photons could wander. You do not see anything here, but you sense something pressure, heat, a thick brilliance that fills all space. The universe was not quiet here. It was dense, hot, alive. But even then, it was becoming. It was waiting for the moment it was cool, the moment the fog would lift, the moment light would be free. And in that freedom, it would carry the memory of its birth through space, all the way to you. You feel that freedom now. It moves through you, slow, gentle, wise, like an old lullaby passed from grandmother to child, not to teach, not to instruct, just to comfort, just to remember. And still the expansion continues. These photons, born in the first light, keep stretching. Their message grows quieter, but does not stop. You wonder, will we always be able to hear them? Will there come a time when the universe is so vast, so old, that this background fades entirely from view? Some scientists say yes, that in trillions of years, the cosmic microwave background will be stretched so far it will disappear beyond detectability. The universe will go quiet, not from lack of stories, but from distance. But you are here now, and it is still whispering. The echoes are still arriving. The light is still stretching. The story is still being told. You are still listening. And as you listen, you drift slowly, softly through the glow that made everything possible. You float onward, no destination in mind, only drifting. And as you drift, a thought begins to settle in your mind, gentle, strange, and quietly revolutionary. If everything is expanding, where is the center? You turn, slowly, in this boundless sea of stars and red-shifted echoes. You try to trace the growth backward, like following a ripple to its origin. But there's no central stone, no singular explosion point, only motion, softly swelling outward in all directions. The truth, dear dreamer, is this: there is no center of the universe, and yet everywhere is the center. You are floating now through a cosmos without a middle, and somehow that makes everything feel closer, not farther. It means the Big Bang didn't happen at location. It happened to space itself, not in a spot, but at every spot. Not from a place, but from a moment. It's one of those truths that sits just on the edge of language, like a dream you almost remember. Imagine the surface of a balloon, not the whole balloon, just its surface. Imagine tiny dots scattered across it. As the balloon inflates, every dot moves away from every other dot. No matter which one you sit on, it looks like everything else is expanding away from you. That's the universe. Only not on the surface of a balloon, in all directions, in every dimension, in the deepest fabric of space-time. There is no outside, no edge, no origin point hanging somewhere in the night sky, no place where it all began. Because the moment the universe began, space itself was born with it. Time, too. You cannot move toward the beginning, because the beginning is not behind you. It is around you. It is in you. You realize now why no matter where astronomers point their telescopes, They see galaxies moving away. It's not because we are at the centre, it's because everywhere is. You're not standing on a shore watching things drift past. You are in the ocean, and the ocean is rising beneath you. From any point in the universe, the same truth would be seen, the same expansion, the same stretching of light and space. That is what it means to live in a centerless cosmos. The origin is not a place, it is a condition. And this condition is still happening. The Big Bang is not an old event we've left behind. It is an unfolding that continues to shape every inch of your existence. You let that realization wash over you like warm rain. It doesn't make you feel lost. It makes you feel held. Because if there is no single center, then you're not far from it. You are as central to the universe as any star, any galaxy, any quasar exploding at the edge of visibility. The cosmos has no middle, so wherever you are is exactly where the story continues. You look down not toward Earth, but toward the timeline of the universe, and you begin to see the slow transformation of everything. In the beginning, matter and energy were one wild thing, tangled and loud, but time smoothed it, spread it, and the spreading is still happening. The stretching of space is not a relic of history. It is the very nature of space, like bread rising, like silence growing, like dreams becoming longer as the night goes on. You drift now past a cluster of galaxies, each one spinning gently in its own gravity, each one separated by oceans of emptiness that continue to widen. They do not fall apart, their internal bonds remain, but the space between them grows. And the question returns: if the universe is growing, what is it growing into? The answer is simple and strange. It is not growing into anything. Space is not stretching into more space. It is becoming more space. It is generating itself, like a melody adding new notes as it plays, like a story writing more pages as it unfolds. There is no container, no room with the ceiling. The universe is not inside anything else. It is the totality of everything that can be inside. That's why the center cannot be located, because the center is not in space, it is in the expansion of space. You now realize this truth exists not only in telescopes, but inside you. The atoms in your body were made in stars, but the hydrogen so simple, so old it was born from the primordial soup itself, from the moments just after the Big Bang. That hydrogen has never been destroyed. It has passed through stars, clouds, and oceans, and now rests in your lungs, your blood, your bones. You're not separate from the expansion. You're a continuation of it. When you breathe, the universe exhales. When you sleep, the universe softens. When you think of the center, remember it is not a place. It is a state of being. Even the galaxies that will never meet share this centerless expansion. Even the photons that will never find a planet carry its echo, and even the questions we may never answer are shaped by the stretch. You pass a region now where the galaxy is thin and the stars grow faint. This is not the end. It is simply the beginning of more space. Out here, the silence becomes deeper, not heavier, not colder, but wider. You close your eyes and feel your body held by gravity, by memory, by softness. You're floating through a moment that never stopped expanding. A moment that never needed a point to push from, just a directionless bloom. And in that bloom, you are exactly where you need to be, right in the middle of everything, just like always. You drift farther into the quiet, and something begins to feel unfamiliar. Not the light, though, it is fading slowly into longer, gentler waves. Not the space, though it continues to stretch like an old lullaby unravelling at the edges. No, it is time that feels strange. Time does not tick here. It does not march. It does not move like it does in your waking life. Here, in the deep swell of expanding space, time flows differently. You notice it first in your breath. It feels slower, not from sleepiness, but from something older, something cosmic. You're not just floating through space. You're floating through time itself, stretched, softened, and curved by the fabric of the universe. The seconds you knew back home, the mechanical tick of clocks, the predictable swing of pendulums, they don't mean much out here. They were always local, always earthbound, but in the vastness of the cosmos, time is more flexible than it first appeared. It can be stretched, it can be curved, it can even stop in certain places or flow faster elsewhere. And right now, as you drift on the back of expanding space, time stretches with you. Imagine a blanket being pulled slowly outward, everything sewn into its stars, galaxies, light, and even the rhythm of time gets gently pulled along. It doesn't resist. It doesn't tear. It simply lengthens. The early universe was different. Time was dense, compressed like the space around it. Things happened quickly. Particles collided, fused, transformed. Epochs passed in seconds. The fabric of reality was tight, curled into itself. A billion things could happen in the blink of a cosmic eye. But now the fabric is loose, soft, spread thin by eons of expansion. The clocks still tick, but their rhythm is not what it was. And the farther you drift, the more you feel it. It's like being underwater, where everything moves slower, where sounds are muffled and gestures feel like they belong to dreams. But this isn't a distortion. This is reality, shaped by scale. Out here, time is as relative as direction. Your heartbeat still beats, your thoughts still unfold, but the universe's heartbeat is slower. You begin to realize why astronomers speak of look-back time. When they say a galaxy is 10 billion light-years away, they're not just speaking of distance, they're speaking of the past. Because when you look far into space, you're always looking back in time. This means that space and time are not separate things. They are entangled, woven together into a single fabric space-time. And that fabric doesn't just contain the universe, it is the universe. And now, as you move deeper into it, you feel the subtle tug of its seams. You pass a region where galaxies no longer look like modern spirals. They're clumpier, more chaotic, younger. You are watching them as they were billions of years ago. They're still forming, still uncertain, like the early lines of a poem not yet finished. And all of it, every light you see, is slowed, redshifted, stretched. Not only because space is expanding, but because time itself was flowing differently back then. You wonder, is the present moment a universal truth? The answer, softly, is no. The now you experience is not the same now for a galaxy 10 billion light-years away. There is no single moment that everyone and everything shares. Time here depends on motion, gravity, and the geometry of space itself. Even on Earth, this truth holds. Time ticks faster at the top of a mountain than at sea level. Astronauts orbiting Earth experience time slightly differently than those on the ground, not as science fiction, as science. And here, between galaxies, drifting across the slow tides of cosmic expansion, you are in one of the most peaceful time zones the universe allows, A time zone not of minutes, but of epochs, not of urgency, but of duration. And in this slowed rhythm, you begin to see something beautiful. The stars you once watched from your window, some of them are already gone. Their light still travels, still arrives, long after the stars themselves have burned out. You are seeing their echoes, their preserved images written in time-stretched script. This means the night sky is a memory, a living memory, always updating, but never quite current, and so are you. Your atoms remember other times, some from the birth of the universe, others from the cores of long-dead stars. The hydrogen in your veins is nearly 14 billion years old. It flowed through cosmic clouds before ever joining your body. It has waited patiently through every era. You're not a creature who lives in time. You are a creature made from time. You are time, walking, and even as your breath slows and your eyes grow heavy, the Big Bang continues stretched not only across space, but across every heartbeat, every second, every age. You're part of a tempo that stretches back to the beginning. You feel it now, don't you? Time is not just passing, it is holding you, like a slow tide pulling you ever onward, not toward an end, but through a gentle unfolding, a movement that is still happening. The Big Bang was not just the beginning of everything. It was the beginning of becoming, and becoming takes time, so let it pass, let it stretch, let yourself drift with it. There is no hurry, there is only now, and even now is always changing. You have been drifting slowly, following the hush of cosmic expansion, the breath-like rhythm of space-time's widening. But now something shifts. You're drawn backward not just through distance, but through time itself. Not in the way we move through memory, gently and linearly, but in a sweeping rewind. The universe is shrinking, not collapsing, not reversing, but condensing around you, becoming tighter, hotter, stranger. And then suddenly something happens, something enormous. But it doesn't feel like an explosion. It doesn't feel like noise. It feels like stillness torn open, like possibility unraveling at the speed of itself. This is cosmic inflation, a moment so brief, it makes seconds feel eternal, a moment so vast, it gave scale to everything that followed. It happened not after the Big Bang, but within its first whisper, within the first sliver of the first instant, a fraction of a second, so small we do not have a word gentle enough for it, and yet in that blinkless blink, the universe expanded unimaginably, from something smaller than a proton to something the size of galaxies, not by travelling, but by unfolding, by becoming. You hover here, in this impossibly short breath of time, and you feel the universe stretching faster than light, not breaking any rule, not cheating, but expanding space itself. The rules of distance, of time, of scale they hadn't settled yet. And in that freedom, the universe grew. It grew with such speed, such smoothness, that even now, billions of years later, we can still see the fingerprints of that instant etched into the sky. Inflation is not the same as the slow expansion you've been floating through. That expansion is quiet, gentle, predictable. Inflation was different. It was a storm without wind, a shout without sound. You don't hear it. You feel it in the way your awareness tightens, pulled along by space swelling faster than anything could chase. You're no longer watching galaxies form or light stretch. You're witnessing the very reason those things were ever possible. This was the universe smoothing itself out, erasing wrinkles, flattening curves, taking chaos and sculpting it into quiet order. Before inflation, the universe was turbulent. Energies surged, quantum particles blinked in and out of being. There was no direction, no certainty. But then inflation calmed it, like a breath that clears fog from glass. This is the reason the night sky looks nearly the same in all directions. This is why the cosmic microwave background is so uniform, because the universe, in its infancy, grew so fast it ironed out its own fluctuations. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it slowed, inflation ended, the pace calmed. And in that stillness, everything else began. Particles cooled, atoms formed, stars eventually ignited, but nothing that came after could have happened without this first impossible storm of softness. You hover here, at the edge of that impossible moment, and wonder what caused it. The truth is, no one knows. Some physicists believe it was triggered by a field unlike any we've observed, a field that permeated the newborn universe and drove this inflation. Others suggest it may have been the decay of a vacuum state, or the collision of multi-dimensional surfaces in some vaster reality. These are ideas wrapped in math, carried on the backs of unconfirmed particles. They're whispered through telescopes and captured in the trembling variations of ancient light. But they are not yet answers. They are still questions, beautiful ones. Because even now, with our satellites and equations, we don't fully understand what started the universe's growth. We only know it worked. You pass through the echo of that working, and you realize this sudden, immense expansion did not make things move. It made space itself. It didn't launch galaxies. It built the framework where galaxies could someday be born. It was not movement through space. It was the birth of space itself, and it happened everywhere. That's the part that's hardest to hold in a waking mind. Inflation wasn't a balloon growing in one direction. It was all directions at once, every point expanding from every other, not into anything else, but into itself. No edges, no outside, only more inside. You find comfort in that, because it means you are still inside it, not as a separate being floating through the aftermath, but as a continuation of that expansion, a child of inflation, stretched into thought, cradled by curved space-time. Your atoms were once entangled in that moment. They remember its freedom, its speed, its silence, and the universe remembers it too. It remembers it in the large-scale structure of everything in the walls and voids between galaxies, in the directions that light prefers, in the temperatures of photons that were born when the fog lifted. You're not just seeing inflation's effect, you are feeling it. Every breath you take now is supported by laws shaped in that first instant. Every second that passes is made possible by the smoothing of that impossibly fast beginning. You smile softly, because you know now that this universe, wide and calm and full of quiet space, began in a moment so fast it defies comprehension. And yet, somehow, that moment has made all the rest of this slowness possible. Isn't that beautiful that something so fast could lead to something so slow? That the quiet night sky you stare at from your pillow is only peaceful because of a roar you'll never hear. Inflation is over. It ended billions of years ago. But the space it built is still here, still stretching, still holding everything. And you, dear listener, are floating in that space. You're floating in the echo of a moment that once outpaced light, and now you are resting in the quiet it left behind. You drift through the calm that followed inflation into a time when things began to take form, not fully, not clearly, but just enough for the first outlines of everything to whisper themselves into being. The stretching has slowed now, the roar has passed, and in its place there is warmth, a dense, radiant warmth, still too bright for darkness, but no longer wild. This is the era where particles begin to appear, where the universe, so recently smoothed and swollen by inflation, begins to cool. And in that cooling, miracles happen. Out of what seems like nothing, something begins to stir. You're floating through the first seconds after the beginning, not just near it, but in it. This is a time so dense, so hot, that matter and energy exist in a kind of blur. You cannot separate one from the other. Particles form, vanish, reappear. Photons collide with electrons, as electrons with positrons, as gluons, quarks, neutrinos. They flicker in and out of reality like fireflies in a windstorm. It's not chaos, it's not disorder, it is a dance. A quantum dance where every step is both a question and an answer. You watch the universe cool second by second, breath by breath, and as it cools, it changes. In the beginning, the temperatures were so high that particles could not survive. But now, as the fire recedes just slightly, particles begin to stay. They linger. They last. First, the tiniest things appear quarks and antiquarks, swirling like whirlpools in a sea of heat. Gluons bind them, fleetingly, only to break and try again. In the blink of a cosmic eye, these quarks begin to find one another, triplets held together in stable triangles, forming the very first protons and neutrons. You float beside them, watch them form, watch them hold. These are the seeds of everything, of hydrogen, of helium, of the stars that will one day burn and the planets that will one day hold oceans. But for now, they are just simple, tiny bodies, heavy, stubborn, resilient. And then another cooling step comes. The universe is still hot, but no longer a white flash. The photons begin to lose just enough energy for protons and neutrons to form atomic nuclei. The first elements are born not forged in stars, not yet, but born directly from the cooling of the cosmos itself. This is called nucleosynthesis, a word soft on the tongue, but immense in meaning. It means that hydrogen and helium are not just star children. They are older than that. They are universe children. You pause near a newly formed helium nucleus, 2 protons, 2 neutrons, locked in a tiny embrace. It spins softly in space, unaware that it will one day float through gas clouds, spiral into a star, fuse again, and one day help form the air someone will breathe. But for now, it drifts, new, pure, a note in the first symphony. You look around. The universe is still dense, still bright, but there is direction now, a forward motion, a memory beginning to take shape. And everywhere you look, particles continue to appear like frost forming on a window pane as the night deepens. But you wonder, where did these particles come from, if there was nothing before? How did something arrive? It is one of the great questions. Physics tells us that in the earliest moments of the universe, energy was so intense that particles could be created spontaneously, from fluctuations, from brief imbalances in a perfect symmetry. Virtual particles flickered in and out of existence, and some stayed. Why did some remain while others vanished? Why did matter win out over antimatter, allowing the stars and galaxies to form? No one knows. not completely. Some theories suggest that in the early quantum fields, a small imbalance occurred, one extra matter particle for every billion pairs of matter and antimatter, and those leftovers, they became everything, every star, every planet, every living being, a 1 in a billion imbalance, that's all it took. And so, here you are drifting through a moment born from imperfection, made possible not by symmetry, but by a subtle mistake, a glorious, universe-making mistake. You float past electrons now small, weightless, quick. They dance through this soup of radiation, searching for balance, for partners, for stability. And they, too, will soon find it. The protons are waiting. The electrons will circle them. Not yet, it's still too hot, but soon, when the photons lose just a little more energy, when the expansion stretches space just a little farther, atoms will form, and when they do, light will finally travel freely. But that is still ahead. For now, the universe is a thick soup. A plasma, a glowing cloud of particles, drifting and colliding and becoming. You might think of it as chaos, but it isn't. It is structure in motion. It is the laying of foundations. You let yourself sink deeper into that plasma, not with your body, but with your awareness. You feel the pressure, the warmth, the sheer presence of becoming. Nothing here is silent. Nothing here is still. And yet, it is peaceful. Because every particle you see is part of the same family. Every neutron, every electron, every faint humming neutrino, they all emerged from the same moment, the same breath. And what began as a pure energy storm is now a growing community of matter, the beginnings of chemistry, the seeds of biology, the faintest sketches of thought. You move through this soup of particles as through a fog, thick, bright, but parting for you. You see ahead the beginning of stars, the formation of galaxies, the clustering of dark matter. But for now, you stay here, in the warmth of first light, watching matter coalesce from nothing. From nothing came quarks. From quarks came protons and neutrons. From those came atoms. From atoms came stars. And from stars came everything else. But it started here in the moment particles first held hands and didn't let go. You let that thought rest gently in you. It is not often that something comes from nothing, not in your daily life, but the universe had rules you're only just beginning to understand. Rules that allowed creation without a blueprint, a game where energy turned into matter, and matter turned into meaning. You are made of those first particles, not just metaphorically, literally. The hydrogen in your body was born in the first 3 minutes of the universe. It is older than the earth, older than the sun. It was there when nothing became something, and it is still here now, breathing in your chest. Particles born from a moment that never truly ended. You drift in that thought, softly, wonderingly, and you let yourself fall asleep to it, knowing that even in the quiet of your room, even in the stillness of your breath, the legacy of that first forming continues. You're the echo of a proton, the rhythm of an electron, the memory of a star, and the universe is still becoming. You drift now through a sea that is beginning to cool, beginning to clear. The particles that once flashed and collided with every breath have begun to calm, to find their places. Space itself still stretches. Yes, but it does so more gently now, like fabric pulled smooth by soft hands. And within this newly tranquil fabric, something begins to gather. You pass through a cloud, not a cloud of water or mist, but of hydrogen, pure, ancient hydrogen, born from the first seconds after the beginning. These are the first true atoms, formed when the universe finally cooled enough for protons and electrons to embrace. The fog has lifted. Light is free to travel, and matter is free to collect. You feel a presence here that is new, heavier, more deliberate. The universe, for the first time, is starting to organize itself. This is the age of structure, and you are floating through its dawn. Small ripples in the early distribution of matter, those barely perceptible imperfections left behind by inflation, begin to grow, not quickly, not loudly, but with gravity's patient pull. Denser regions draw in surrounding gas, a quiet gathering, a cosmic knitting. At first, it is subtle, wisps of hydrogen flowing inward, spiraling gently, cooling and compressing. These threads begin to cross. They form filaments, long, thin strands stretching across space, connecting point to point like veins. The universe is building its skeleton, and where these filaments meet, something extraordinary begins. The gas collapses, the temperature rises, pressure builds, and then, suddenly stars. The first stars ignite not with violence but with brilliance, massive, hot, and short-lived. These are not like the stars you know. They are heavier, simpler, burning pure hydrogen into helium in dazzling bursts. They live fast, they die young. But in their hearts, something even more precious is being born, the first heavier elements, the oxygen you breathe, the carbon in your skin, the iron in your blood. These stars are the first alchemists. You drift near one of them. Its light is bluer than anything you've ever seen. It pulses like a bell. It sings without sound. And though it may only live a few million years, its light will travel for billions. When it dies, it will do so in fire, a supernova explosion so intense it will scatter its insides across space, seeding the surrounding clouds with the elements of future worlds. This cycle of birth, burn, and scatter has just begun. You pass another region of space now, where countless clouds of hydrogen are collapsing together under their own gravity. Some become clusters of stars. Others become vast swirls, proto-galaxies in motion. They are not the galaxies you know yet. They are chaotic, messy, irregular. Their shapes haven't settled, but they are beginning to spin, drawn into spirals by their own mass, sculpted by the gravity of invisible things. Yes, invisible, because alongside the gas and light, something else is present here. Dark matter. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but it's there, outnumbering normal matter by more than 5 to 1. It does not shine, it does not collide, but it does shape. It pulls on everything with gravity's quiet hand, forming halos around the young galaxies, anchoring their stars, helping to hold their spiral arms in place. Without dark matter, these galaxies would fly apart. With it, they form and hold. You float through one such halo, now a vast spherical presence, ghost-like and profound. Within it, stars form, gas cools, black holes awaken. This is the beginning of what will become the Milky Way. You are watching your own galactic ancestors, not just forming, but dancing, drawn together by gravity, spun by momentum, cooled by time. You watch galaxies merge too, collisions, not like crashes, but like embraces. Their stars pass through one another, mostly untouched, while their gas clouds compress, birthing new generations of stars in brilliant bursts. The universe is not just growing, it is building, and it is doing so with elegance. Patterns emerge, spirals, ellipses, clusters, a grand architecture rising from silence. And as galaxies take form, so too do the environments around them. Some are born in solitude, alone in vast voids. Others gather in swarms, clusters of galaxies orbiting one another, connected by gravity, tethered across millions of light years. You drift through such a cluster now. Dozens, hundreds of galaxies orbit in a common centre of mass. Some spin with grace, others are distorted, tugged by their neighbours, trailing streams of stars like cosmic lace, and between them a quiet glow, not from stars, but from gas heated to millions of degrees, stripped bare and glowing in X-rays, a reminder that even emptiness can burn. You pause near a galaxy that will one day resemble your own, a swirling disk of stars, with a bright central bulge and long arms coiling outward. Inside, stars orbit in silence, gas clouds drift, planetary systems form, and in one of those systems, many billions of years from now, life will wake. But for now, there is only motion, only gravity, only light, and still, the expansion continues. The galaxies move apart, carried on the breath of inflation's echo. The clusters remain gravitationally bound, but the space between them stretches. A cosmic balance gravity gathers, expansion separates. And you float through the middle of it, watching the universe not only exist but organize. You begin to sense the scale of it all. The stars you see are not sprinkled randomly. They are part of a structure so vast, so intricate, that it resembles the filaments of a brain. Galaxies are nodes. Voids are spaces between thought. The cosmos is thinking, not in words, but in patterns. And you, dear listener, are part of that pattern. Your own body is built from atoms forged in these stars, assembled in the spiral arms of galaxies born in the earliest ripples of inflation. Every cell in you echoes this architecture. You are not beneath the stars. You are within them, not outside the story, a chapter of it. And as the galaxies continue to form, merge, shine, and spread, so too does your wonder. You're floating now through time and scale, watching creation unfold not in a single explosion, but in waves of collapse, formation, and light. And through it all, gravity holds the pen, galaxies in the making, and you quietly watching. You drift now into a moment of clarity, a turning point in the universe's memory. Around you, the fog begins to lift. Not a fog of clouds or vapour, but one made of pure energy of radiation so thick, so hot, that light itself couldn't move freely. But something is changing. The expansion has stretched the fabric of space further. The temperature has fallen steadily, gently. And now, finally, the particles that once danced wildly in the heat begin to slow. Protons find electrons, and this time they hold on. They form hydrogen atoms, millions upon millions, forming like dew, condensing from the heat of the early cosmos. You are floating through the moment of recombination, the cosmic shift when light, for the first time, could travel without being trapped. Before this, photons ricocheted in every direction, constantly absorbed and re-emitted by free-floating charged particles. It was like trying to see through the centre of the sun, blinding and impenetrable. But now the light is free, and it begins to move. The universe becomes transparent. You float in awe through a world that is no longer glowing with heat, but glowing with the freedom of visibility. The photons released here will journey for billions of years, and some of them will one day be captured by instruments on Earth, becoming the soft map of the cosmic microwave background. But here, in this moment, they are newborn, released like birds from a long-locked cage. You imagine what that must feel like for the photons, those ancient packets of light suddenly free to stretch their arms and travel without end. No more bouncing, no more scattering, just motion outward, forever. It's like the moment a fog clears and a horizon appears, the first light you can truly see, and it is everywhere. You pass through a wave of these free-flying photons. They are not blinding, they are not sharp. They are warm, faint, whispering. They don't strike you, they move through you, humming the story of their release. This is the earliest light that still exists. A light that has stretched across space and time, cooled and softened into microwaves, yet still carries the imprint of this very moment. It has never stopped moving. It has never turned back, and now it fills the universe soft, silent, all around. You pause to feel its texture. It doesn't shimmer like starlight. It doesn't flicker like fire. It hums, a steady, ancient presence, like a memory that never fades. You realize that this is the true beginning of the observable universe, not the moment it began, but the moment it became visible. Before this, there was only haze. Now, there are shadows, structure, direction, and the light. It maps all of it. Photons travel straight now. They carry information. They draw lines from the past to the future. You drift through one such beam of light, tracing it backward, not forward. And in doing so, you see it pass by the early galaxies, by clouds of gas, through the invisible arms of dark matter, until it reaches you. This light is the messenger. It's how you know what the early universe looked like. And every galaxy you've seen in the night sky, every telescope image of distant stars, they all depend on this one transformation, the moment when light was finally free to travel. You let that thought rest inside you like a small flame, so simple, so quiet. But without it, there would be no stars in your sky, no sunrise to wake to, no colour, no shadow, no sight. You think of how casually you walk through light in your waking life, how often you forget that every beam of sunshine is a traveller, a photon that left a star and crossed space to find you. But now you know, light is not a passive thing. It is ancient, it is brave, it is still arriving, and even now, 13.8 billion years later, the first light still travels. The photons from this very moment of transparency are still out there, still moving, still cooling, still stretching. They have become part of the cosmic microwave background, part of the low hum that fills all of space, that we detect with satellites, that we paint into maps showing the faintest differences in temperature and density. Those differences became galaxies. Those galaxies became stars. Those stars became you. You're not just observing history, you are history. And this moment, the moment when light learned to travel, is in your bones. It is in your breath, in your dreams. Without it, there would be no story. And now, that story continues. The light moves on. So do you. But you carry its memory. And tonight, as your eyes begin to close, and the last thoughts of the day fade into stillness, remember this. The light that touches your skin, the light that warms your face in the morning, the light that makes the stars visible above your pillow it was once trapped. And then it was freed. So you could see, so the universe could be seen, so the cosmos could finally begin to tell its story in waves, in whispers, in warmth. And you are listening. You drift now into a universe that is cooling, spreading, and glowing with the soft hush of light newly freed. But there's something else here, something quieter than silence, deeper than the background glow of the stars to be. You begin to feel a rhythm, not in your ears, not in your chest, but everywhere, a vibration that passes through the very fabric of space, like the low murmur of a forgotten song. It is not sound, not in the way you know it. There is no air here, no medium for pressure waves to travel through. And yet, there was a time when the universe could carry a kind of music, and you're floating in the memory of it now, long ago before light was free. Before atoms were born, the universe was filled with a hot, dense plasma. Particles collided endlessly. Photons bounced between electrons. Protons and neutrons drifted in a thick soup, too chaotic to settle. But even in that chaos, waves formed, like ripples in a vast ocean. These were not waves of water, and not quite waves of sound. They were pressure waves rippling through the hot plasma like vibrations through a bell. Regions of slightly higher density compressed, then bounced back, over and over. The universe was oscillating, not randomly, but musically. You float now through one of those waves so long stretched that it no longer rises or falls, but it leaves its mark behind. These pressure waves are called baryon acoustic oscillations, and they are the cosmic equivalent of sound waves left in stone. You can't hear them, but you can see what they built. They imprinted themselves into the structure of the cosmos, into the clustering of galaxies, into the patterns of the cosmic microwave background. Each ripple, each pulse, left behind a slight preference for how matter would later gather. It's as if the universe rang like a bell, and galaxies formed along its frozen vibrations. You float gently along one such wavefront, sensing how the density changes, how matter gathered a little more here, a little less there, and across billions of years, those small differences bloomed into immense structure walls of galaxies, vast voids, intricate patterns that stretch for hundreds of millions of light years. You are floating inside a frozen melody, and it never needed to be heard to be real. You wonder what it might have sounded like if you could have heard it. A deep hum, maybe lower than any voice, longer than any song, a cosmic heartbeat echoing through the plasma of creation. Scientists have tried to reconstruct it, stretching the waveforms into audible sound, and what they find is this. The early universe pulsed like a drum, not chaotic, but steady, predictable, full of rhythm. A lullaby, played on the strings of reality itself. It is this soundless symphony that helped sculpt the universe into what it is today. Without those early waves, galaxies might have formed differently. Matter might not have clumped so neatly, so beautifully. The stars might have been scattered more randomly. Instead, there is form, not perfect symmetry, but purposeful shape, as if the universe listened to its own music and followed its lead. You realize something else. Float and hear those same forces, those same waves, still exist in your world. You see them in the ripples of a pond, in the vibration of a violin string, in the rhythm of a sleeping heart. Waves are everywhere. They carry energy. They shape form. They leave echoes that last longer than the notes themselves, just like those in the early universe. And so, the memory of that ancient music is not locked away in deep space. It's in you, in everything. The same laws of physics that governed those primordial ripples govern your thoughts, your breath, the flow of blood through your veins. You're shaped by the same waveforms that stirred the first stars into motion. You're not just a listener of this music. You are part of it. You drift onward now, through a quieter space. The ripples have spread far. They've slowed, their energy spent, but their fingerprints remain on galaxies, on clusters, on you. You let that settle into your breath. The universe has always had rhythm, not just in the stars that orbit, or the moons that pull tides, or the hearts that beat, but in the very beginning when everything was light and plasma and possibility. Even then, there was a pattern. Even then, there was a song. You float farther now, beyond the warmth of that ancient vibration, into a darker, quieter space still expanding, still humming but less crowded now. The light has stretched, the temperature has dropped, and the early particles have had time to find one another, to form stars, to cluster. What you see around you is not chaos. It is not a random scattering of galaxies tossed into the void. It is structure, delicate, vast, and surprisingly familiar. You begin to notice a pattern emerging, a cosmic lattice, gently spread across the universe like strands of silk. Galaxies are not alone. They form threads, filaments, ribbons of matter stretching across unimaginable distances, connecting point to point across the dark. This is the cosmic web, and you are gliding right through it. It doesn't look like a web you could weave with your hands. It is more like the root system of some great invisible tree, or the neural pathways of a sleeping mind. Galaxies cluster along these strands. At the intersections called nodes, galaxies form in brilliant collections, held in place by unseen hands. You drift closer to one such node. A galaxy cluster, spinning gently, the result of billions of years of gravitational pull. Dozens of galaxies whirl in orbits around their shared center. Some are spiral, like elegant pinwheels. Others are elliptical, bloated and hazy. All are bound by the same quiet tether gravity. But there's more here than meets the eye, because the web you see, the part made of stars and gas and light, is only a small portion of the whole. The real scaffolding, the true architecture, is invisible. Dark matter. It does not glow. It does not burn. It does not speak in light, but its gravity weaves the threads. It is the hidden artist behind this cosmic web. Its mass draws in the gas, which cools and collapses into galaxies. Without it, the web would unravel. You feel it now, a presence, a pressure. You don't see dark matter, but you feel how it curves space, how it nudges the galaxies, holds the clusters together, paints the outline of this web with invisible brush strokes. Some compare it to scaffolding around a great building seen only in silhouette, but vital to the shape, and that building is everything. You pass from one filament to another, like slipping through alleyways between cities. The voids between them are enormous, spanning hundreds of millions of light years, and nearly empty. These cosmic deserts make the web all the more striking, because they frame it in stillness. You pause in one such void. It is darker here, quieter, but not empty. Tiny galaxies still hide in this darkness, faint, difficult to see, like forgotten echoes, drifting where light rarely visits. Then, Slowly, you return to the web. It stretches in every direction. It moves. Not quickly, but with purpose. Over time, the filaments pull tighter, clumps merge, galaxies flow along the strands like rivers finding valleys. And even now, billions of years after the beginning, the web is still growing. The filaments reach farther. The nodes grow denser. Galaxies continue their slow migration along the gravity-shaped lines. It is a living map of the universe's history, and your history too. Because your galaxy, our Milky Way, is part of this web. It lives in a filament, just outside a modest cluster. It spins inside its own dark matter halo, surrounded by smaller galaxies, including one that will someday merge with it, Andromeda. You realize now your body, your planet, your breath, none of it exists in isolation. It is the result of threads pulled across eons, of hydrogen that followed these lines, of stars that formed in the densest knots, of dust that cooled, condensed, and gave rise to life, all because of this web. You are suspended in it, like dew on a spider's thread, like a thought in a dreaming brain. And though you are small, you're not lost, because the web connects everything, and in the quiet, in the darkness, in the gentle tug of gravity, the universe continues to weave. You drift now between filaments, among galaxies tracing their ancient paths, each of them pulled gently along the cosmic web. And as you watch them move, a quiet question rises in you. Are they expanding outward, or escaping from something? It's hard to tell, because from wherever you float, galaxies seem to be receding. No matter where you are, it always appears that the others are pulling away. You're surrounded by motion, but not the kind caused by running or fleeing. It is more like the whole of space is stretching beneath them, carrying them farther apart without ever pushing. You begin to sense the difference. This isn't an escape, it's an unfolding, an expansion not driven by force, but by the nature of space itself. You remember the balloon again, not the surface you touch with your hand, but the invisible idea of a balloon inflating everywhere at once. Galaxies do not move through space as much as they move with it. They are passengers, carried outward by something beneath them that is growing, and yet it feels so personal. You watch one galaxy, a soft spiral, small and golden, like a seashell lost in the tide. It moves gently away from others, not resisting, not racing, just drifting. You wonder if it knows it's being pulled along. You wonder if you would know, because this expansion is not something we feel directly. We don't see the Milky Way stretching in real time. Our solar system remains bound. The Earth still orbits. Your feet still touch the ground. But beyond our galaxy, space is moving, and it never stops. You float beside two galaxies now once close, now slowly separating. They're not moving away by choice. They are not repelled. It is space that is growing between them, a quiet widening, a soft sigh. The galaxies are not escaping. They are obeying the laws of space-time itself, written into the structure of the cosmos since its earliest breath. You drift farther, past clusters, past voids, past long, quiet stretches where galaxies become faint pinpricks in the dark, and you begin to wonder, is there a force behind this? Something guiding the expansion? Something hidden? The answer arrives in a whisper. Dark energy. It's not a thing we can touch, not a force like wind or magnetism, but it is there woven into the fabric of the universe itself, and unlike gravity, which pulls, Dark energy pushes. It doesn't slam the galaxies apart. It urges them gently, relentlessly. The expansion of the universe is not slowing down, it's speeding up. This discovery surprised everyone. Scientists expected gravity to slow the growth, to hold things together more tightly over time, but instead, the opposite is true. The galaxies aren't just drifting, they are accelerating, like a tide growing stronger with distance, and the farther they are, the faster they go. You imagine this motion now not as violence, but as surrender, a quiet release. A willingness to drift into a future with more room. But what is dark energy? No one really knows. Some say it is an energy built into space itself, that even a perfect vacuum holds a kind of pressure. Others believe it may be linked to the shape of the universe, or to fields we haven't yet discovered. There are even whispers that it may not be constant, that it could change over time, fade, shift, or grow. If it grows too strong, some say, it could one day tear galaxies apart, solar systems, even atoms. But that future is far, far beyond the stars you see tonight. Tonight, the expansion is gentle, and so you float through it not as an observer of chaos, but as a companion to rhythm. The galaxies not fleeing, they are continuing. The Big Bang did not launch them like fireworks from a central point. It opened the fabric beneath them, and that fabric has not stopped unfolding. And even now, even here, you are part of it. The atoms in your body ride the same expansion. The light in your eyes stretches across the same space-time. You're not a witness to the motion. You're within it. And though the galaxies may seem to escape, there is no edge they're heading toward. There is no outside they are reaching for. There is only more inside, more space, more mystery, more soft becoming. You drift now in the space between stars, and you smile because you know the truth. The universe isn't escaping, it is breathing. You drift now into a slower place, still expanding, still stretching, but with something else shifting beneath the surface. You've watched galaxies form, stars ignite, and space widen like a long exhale. But something inside that motion is starting to slip away. Not suddenly, not loudly, but gradually, like a candle dimming in a room you didn't realize was getting darker. That something is gravity. You feel its pull still, softly shaping the spiral arms of galaxies, holding stars in their orbits, guiding planets around suns. You see it in the way galaxies cluster, the way filaments stretch like cosmic highways across the dark. Gravity is the sculptor of structure, the thread that weaves matter together, but on the grandest scales, it is losing its grip. You pass between two galaxy clusters, each one dense and dazzling in its own right, wrapped in halos of dark matter, burning with the light of billions of stars. Once, long ago, they would have been drawn together. Gravity would have pulled them into a slow collision, merging their halos, their stars, their histories. But not now. Now, something stronger is tugging them apart, not like a shove, not like a wind, more like a soft, invisible tide, one that grows stronger with distance, dark energy. You remember it from before, how it stretches the space between galaxies, how it accelerates expansion. But now you begin to understand what that means for gravity. It means that, over time, the pull of gravity is overwhelmed, not everywhere, not yet. Stars still form, planets still orbit, within galaxies, gravity remains king, but between galaxies, it is beginning to bow. You drift farther, and as you move, you realize that entire regions of space are slipping away from each other. Not because they are running, but because space itself is expanding faster than gravity can compensate. You watch as clusters that once flirted with each other now fall out of reach. The space between them grows so fast that even light can't bridge it fast enough. They become isolated, like lanterns floating farther and farther across a dark sea. One day, far in the future, each galaxy may become an island cut off from others by sheer expansion. Future observers may see only their local group and wonder if anything else ever existed beyond it. You pause with that thought, not in sadness, in awe, because what you are witnessing is not destruction, it's change, a quiet turning of the tide. The universe is not erasing gravity. It is letting it fade, gently, in the farthest corners, and as gravity recedes on cosmic scales, something extraordinary happens. The structures it once formed, the clusters, the webs, the grand walls of galaxies, they begin to freeze. Not in temperature, but in time. Their motion slows, their shape stabilizes. The large-scale structure of the universe begins to set, like a sculpture cooling into its final form. You move now along one such structure, a filament stretching across millions of light years. Once growing, once collapsing under its own weight, it is now steady. The tug-of-war between gravity and expansion has ended, and expansion has won. But still, the filament remains etched into space like a signature. You wonder how long these structures will last, and the answer is longer than you can imagine. Gravity may lose its strength on the larger scales, but its smaller victories will endure. Galaxies will keep spinning, stars will still be born. Planets will still orbit. Life wherever it blooms will still find warmth in suns and stories in the sky. Because even in retreat, gravity leaves behind beauty. It is the architect of the present, and the ghost of gravity will echo in every spiral galaxy, every dancing moon, every falling apple. You feel its memory in your own body. The atoms in you cling together. Your feet find the floor. Your breath moves in rhythm with a planet held in orbit by an ancient sun. You are not separate from gravity's story. You are written in its curves, and even as it says goodbye on the grandest of scales, it stays with you, soft, present, enough. You drift now at the edge of understanding, not the edge of the universe, for there is no such place, but the edge of something else, an idea, a boundary in thought, a question that lingers in the quiet between galaxies. What was the Big Bang? You felt its rhythm, its long unfolding breath. You floated through its light, its matter, its soundless symphony. But you begin to realize something curious. The Big Bang was not a blast in space. It was space. It was not the detonation of something inside the universe. It was the emergence of the universe itself. There was no explosion in a pre-existing void. There was no center from which everything was flung. The Big Bang didn't happen somewhere. It happened everywhere, because everywhere was born with it. You feel that now in your drifting body. You're not flying away from a point. You're part of an expansion that has no origin in space, only in time, a beginning of when, not where. And even this word beginning starts to feel soft, because if time itself began at the Big Bang, then asking what came before may be like asking what lies north of the North Pole. The question contains something it cannot answer. You float gently through this paradox. Some scientists believe the Big Bang was the beginning of everything, of space, of time, of matter and energy, the ultimate zero point. Others imagine it differently. Perhaps the Big Bang was not a beginning at all, but a transition, a change in state, a shift from one form of existence to another. From what? We do not know. Maybe from a contracting universe that bounced back. Maybe from a timeless quantum foam that momentarily flared into space-time. Maybe from something beyond all understanding. You let that mystery settle around you not as confusion, but as comfort. Because the beauty of the Big Bang lies not just in what it explains, but in what it leaves open. You pass through theories like clouds. Some describe a singularity, an infinitesimal point of infinite density, from which space burst forth. But others suggest that the singularity may never have truly existed, that quantum effects could have softened the blow, rounded the sharpness, eased the beginning into a gentle curve, a cosmic dawn rather than a detonation. You pass a thought now that feels like music. Perhaps the Big Bang wasn't a bang at all. Perhaps it was the beginning of expansion, the slow blooming of possibility, a wave that still rolls through you. Because here is something remarkable. The Big Bang is not over. It is not a distant event, fading in the rear view. It is still happening. The expansion it began continues now, in this moment, in the space between stars, in the breath you just took. You are not after the Big Bang. You are inside it. You are it. You are the echo of a transformation too old for memory and too vast for maps. And yet, here you are breathing, wondering, drifting in the dark, asking what it all means, and the universe. It doesn't answer with words. It answers with light, with gravity, with waves, with galaxies still forming, with hydrogen still humming, with space still stretching, and with mysteries that remain untouched, waiting for minds to meet them. You smile now, floating in this thought, because the Big Bang does not need to be fully understood to be fully loved. Its nature may remain elusive, but its story lives in you. You drift now with a sense of softness, not just in the fabric of space, but in the edges of possibility itself. The universe, you've known this one, expanding, cooling, unfolding like a gentle story, feels vast. But tonight, you begin to wonder, what if it's not alone? What if the Big Bang that birthed your universe was not the only one you float through, the quiet of cosmic expansion, but behind that quiet is a whisper, an idea that has captured the minds of physicists and philosophers alike, the multiverse. Not a fantasy realm or a playground of fiction, but a possibility born from the mathematics of inflation. You remember that moment, the blink, when space inflated faster than light, smoothed and stretched the universe like dough rising in every direction. But some versions of that theory suggest something even stranger. What if that inflation never completely stopped? What if, in other regions far, far beyond what we can observe, inflation is still happening, still bubbling, still blooming? You drift into this idea like drifting into a dream. You're not looking at stars now. You're looking at universes, entire separate domains of space-time, each one born from its own moment of rapid expansion, each sealed off from the others, like islands on an infinite sea. These are not parallel like trains on adjacent tracks. They are parallel like moments in sleep. You pass one now, not in sight, but in imagination. A universe with different physical laws. A universe where gravity is stronger or weaker, where light moves differently, where stars live for centuries or never ignite at all. Some may be sterile, others rich with galaxies, and only one gave rise to you. This one, the universe you know, the only one you can touch. You begin to understand why some scientists call it the cosmic landscape, a field of countless possibilities, where each region of space takes on its own character as it cools, settles, and forms, like a field of snowflakes, no two alike. Some call these pocket universes, others call them bubble universes. You call them quiet. They do not collide. They do not compete. They drift apart, separated by ever-growing distances, the space between them inflating so fast that no light can ever pass from one to another. They are forever parting, and you are floating in one of them. You wonder, could anything pass between them? Could some bridge exist? Could some other version of you be drifting through another cosmos, asking the same question? Maybe, or maybe not. Because the distance between these bubbles grows faster than information can travel, not just in space, but in causality. They are not just out of reach, they are beyond the edge of effect. Still, their possibility stirs something in you, not fear, not confusion, but wonder. Because it means this universe, yours, is not necessarily everything, and that changes how you see it, not smaller, but more precious, more unique, because out of all the countless possibilities, this is the one that made stars. This is the one that made you. You drift quietly through that realization. The multiverse is not something we can see, not directly, but its fingerprints might be hidden in the fine-tuning of our own universe, the precise balance of forces, the exact conditions that allowed galaxies to form and consciousness to arise. Too perfect to be random, some say, or perhaps perfect because in a multiverse, all things happen somewhere, and this one happened here, to you. You pass now into deeper darkness. No stars, no galaxies, just space. Quiet, expanding, eternal. And in this stillness, you feel not alone, but accompanied. Because your universe is one story among many. And all the others, no matter how unreachable, remind you that existence itself is vast. More vast than light, more vast than thought, more vast than this single unfolding breath we call reality. And yet, this breath is yours. This moment is here. This universe, this quiet, glowing, drifting realm of stars and laws and soft expansion is the one that gave you life, and that makes it enough. You drift forward now, not into the past, but into a future still being written. There are no stars ahead of you just yet, only a darkening canvas, stretched ever farther by the same expansion that began with the first breath of time, but it is not an empty future. It is still unfolding. You are no longer watching galaxies form. That age has passed. You are entering a slower chapter, where the fireworks of creation have dimmed, but the story continues in softer ink. The stars still burn for now. Your own galaxy, the Milky Way, still spins, cradling its billions of suns in a spiral of dust and light. But those stars are slowly aging. Some will fade into white dwarfs. Others will go out in quiet sighs of red. A few may still explode for a time, but the era of brilliant, fast-burning stars is passing. What comes next is quieter. And still, the expansion continues. You watch as the space between galaxy clusters grows wider. The clusters themselves remain bound, gravity still holds them. But beyond their borders, Space stretches faster than ever. Eventually, the galaxies you see now will no longer be visible, not because they cease to exist, but because their light can no longer reach you. The expansion will carry them beyond the cosmic horizon, that distant boundary, where space grows so fast that even light can't make the journey. What lies beyond that horizon will still exist, but not for you, not for us. It will be as if the universe is shrinking. Not truly, just invisibility. A paradox of expansion. The more space grows, the less of it you can see. You drift through this future as though gliding on an outgoing tide. Stars dim around you. Background light cools into silence. And yet, you don't feel fear. You feel awe. Because the story isn't ending, it is becoming more subtle. You pass a future Earth, perhaps long silent, or perhaps alive in some transformed way. Maybe someone still watches the sky, wondering what came before, but the stars they see will be fewer. Their telescopes will reveal a lonelier cosmos. They may not know of the cosmic web, of the galaxies now beyond their horizon. They may think their galaxy is all there ever was, but they will still be part of the same expansion. They will still carry atoms from long-dead stars. They will still move through the quiet inheritance of everything that came before, and you're already here. You are floating through the foreshadow of that future. You drift past galaxies that will one day vanish from sight, their light forever stretched into invisibility. But you remember them. You saw them. You know they were part of this story, and that matters. Because memory is also expansion. The universe grows not just in space, but in what it has known. And the knowing you're knowing is part of that growth. You wonder now, what lies even farther ahead? Trillions of years from now, when all stars have faded, when even black holes have evaporated, what then will the universe still expand? Will it ever stop? Will it slow and reverse, or stretch into silence forever? No one knows. Some say yes, it will expand forever, into a cold, dark void. Others dream of a big rip, where expansion becomes so fast that even atoms are pulled apart. But for now, you simply float in what is, and what is still growing, still stretching, still welcoming. Even in the silence, there is movement. Even in the darkness, there is rhythm. You are part of a future that never truly ends. You drift with it, you listen, and you remember. The Big Bang was not the peak of the story. It was only the opening line. The universe is still speaking, and you, dear listener, are still listening. You float now in quiet wonder, not as a distant observer, but as someone who has come to understand something personal. The galaxies you've watched expand, the particles you've seen emerge, the light that first learned to travel, all of it led here, to you. You are not outside the universe's motion. You are the motion, wearing skin. You pass your hand, imagined or real, through the space around you. And in that space, your atoms drift gently, each one born from the unfolding of the Big Bang, carried on the tide of cosmic time, resting now in the form of your body. The hydrogen in your veins is older than Earth. The oxygen in your lungs was forged in the cores of dying stars. The calcium in your bones began as dust in long-forgotten galaxies. You are made not just of matter, but of process, of motion, of transformation. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you feel yourself expand, not metaphorically, but truthfully. You are expanding. Right now, not in size, not in ambition, but in the most literal sense. because space is expanding and you are in it. That expansion doesn't tear you apart. Gravity and chemistry hold you together. But the space between galaxies, that space grows. The light from distant stars stretches, and in your very cells, tiny distances shift, too small to notice, but real. You have never been still. Even in your sleep, you move with the universe. You pass now through an old spiral galaxy, its arms twirling slowly in a dance begun billions of years ago. You trace the stars with your thoughts. One of them, perhaps, is cradling a young planet. One of them is dying in silence. One of them may one day carry life. Each is part of the expansion. Each is part of you. You drift lower into the disk of the galaxy, where stardust swirls. Here, you see the ingredients of everything carbon, nitrogen, iron suspended in clouds, waiting to coalesce. It's in these places that stars are born, and with them, the raw materials of future beings. You wonder how much of you has already passed through such clouds, how many atoms in your skin were once stardust, how many molecules in your breath circled other stars. The answer is almost all. You're not just in the universe is in you, and its motion continues through you, your thoughts firing as gentle sparks are echoes of thermodynamic laws shaped by expansion. Your heart pumping in rhythm as a drumbeat started by gravity collapsing matter long ago. Even your dreams carry traces of ancient motion. You float higher now, above the galaxy, looking down at its spiral arms. You watch how the stars orbit, not in circles, but in curves warped by gravity and dark matter. Every orbit is a story, every motion a note in a long cosmic song, and you begin to understand something deeper. The expansion of the universe is not just out there, it is also in the space between understanding and wonder, between question and silence, between heartbeat and breath. Every moment you live is built on layers of motion particles vibrating, electrons shifting, light travelling, stars orbiting, galaxies receding. You are never not moving, even when you are still. Even now, especially now, you rest in that realization like a leaf on a stream. You do not need to guide it. You do not need to push. You only need to float. You are already part of it. The same motion that flung galaxies outward still hums in your blood. The same expansion that stretches space still stretches you. Just enough to remind you that you belong. The Big Bang never stopped, and you are its proof. You rest now in the deep quiet of a universe still unfolding, not in fire, not in roar, but in the soft, steady rhythm of something that never truly ended. The Big Bang wasn't a bang. It was a beginning that never stopped being, and you are still inside it. You feel the expansion, not as speed or pressure, but as presence, a kind of openness that surrounds you in every direction, a motion so calm, so ancient, so gentle, that it carries galaxies in its arms without ever rushing. And now, as your breath slows and your mind softens into the edge of sleep, you come to a final realization. The universe is not finished. It is still becoming. You float slowly through a sky that grows quieter, more spacious, more mysterious. Stars flicker like thoughts. Galaxies swirl like echoes. And even here, at the farthest stretch of time and imagination, the motion continues. You pass the faint outline of a spiral galaxy, dim with age. Its stars have lived their lives. Its planets are silent, but it still spins, still moves, still stretches with the space around it. You pass the whisper of light from long-dead stars' photons still travelling, still carrying memory. They pass through you, gently, as if to say we are still here. And so are you. The hydrogen that formed in the first 3 minutes still drifts in clouds between galaxies, still collapses into stars, still fuels the future. Nothing is truly lost. Everything transforms. Everything becomes. And the same is true of you. You're not a finished thing. You're still forming. Even now. Even here. In the dark. You're still learning. Still stretching. Still unfolding your own existence. The breath you just took was shaped by laws born in the first second of time. The warmth in your chest comes from atoms that have travelled through stars, and the thoughts in your mind gentle, curious, open, are the product of a cosmos that dreamed itself into awareness, molecule by molecule. You're not outside this story. You are the story. You are the gentle continuation of a spark that has lasted billions of years, and it hasn't stopped. You let that thought sink deeper. The Big Bang wasn't the peak of creation. It was the opening note of a long, unfolding song, and you are still singing it, in your breathing, in your thinking, in your resting, in your simple, quiet being. You float now into a place beyond thought, where everything fades into softness. You feel no edges here, no pressure to know, or do, or solve, just space, just silence, just the open arms of a universe still stretching, still becoming, still loving its own expansion. You listen to that silence now. You listen not with ears, but the quiet place behind your breath. You feel the heartbeat of everything, the pulse of a cosmos that has never stopped growing. And you rest in the middle of it, exactly where you've always been, exactly where you belong. There is no end here, only softness, only spaciousness, only the long, slow unfolding of something too beautiful to rush. So let it unfold, let it stretch, let it carry you. There is nothing else to do, there is nowhere else to be. You are already floating in the centre of it all. The Big Bang is still happening, and you, dear sleepy traveller, are still becoming, still shining, still expanding, still home,